Hey everyone, Kevin here. I have an update for you on the stimulus round 4 package. This update is directly from a Republican member of the Senate Banking Committee, and he finally gives us some insight into what Republicans mean when they suggest that they are going to pause and wait and see. So we're going to get some timing and some expectations as to what Jerry Moran at least sees. He is a Republican. He is a member of the Senate Banking Committee, so he is a senator. So he's going to be right there with Mitch McConnell. I mean, I almost kind of think he's probably in regular talks with Mitch McConnell. That part is obviously an assumption, but he's a member of the Senate Banking Committee, and he seems to speak knowledgeably when he's asked about what Republicans' plans are, and McConnell saying that he's just planning on kind of waiting and seeing and assessing what's going on. So I'm going to break apart exactly what Jerry Moran just said on an interview on CNBC. Let's jump right into that. By the way, if you have not yet, hit that red subscribe button and turn it gray. You'll get to be a part of the pre-600K crowd. Thank you so much, everybody. We've almost crossed 600,000 subscribers. I'm absolutely blown away. I really appreciate your support. I'm even tripping over my words. Anyway, let's keep going here. So here's the scoop. Jerry was asked, where are Republicans on the new stimulus? McConnell says he's going to assess it over the coming weeks. That doesn't sound urgent. Sarah Eisen said this. Jerry, the senator, responds, look, it's appropriate to have a pause. Quote, I assume the pause won't be long. Okay, well, let's get a little bit more detail here, Jerry. He suggests with Memorial Day coming up, we'll be out of here for 2 or 3 days or a little bit longer, but it's time to figure out what's working and what's not. Okay, interesting. So let's take a quick peek at the calendar. We know that today is May 19th. Let's go ahead and take a peek and try to figure this out together and read between the lines, and then let's get into what he suggests they want to see. Again, we'll break that apart, but let's hop over to this here. All right, so we know that Memorial Day comes up over here on May 25th. He suggested they might be gone for 2 or 3 days. We know that we don't consider weekends in the Senate as a day anyway. So for him to say that they're going to be gone for 2 or 3 days, I hate to say it, but that kind of implies that they're going to be gone Memorial Day and then 2 or 3 days after that. So we're really talking about a debate happening on this bill, the HEROES Act 4, probably the 28th, 29th. I assume there'll be some debate over the weekend, but my expectation, unfortunately, is that we're not actually going to see this bill really voted on in the Senate, probably until June 1st to June 3rd over here, in which case, even if there's a vote on one of these days and it passes, it has to go back to the House for changes, because presumably there are going to be changes and counteroffers. So best case scenario, it passes the Senate, let's say Tuesday. It goes back over to the House. They have 3 days to call the session to order to vote in the House and debate these changes, which means best case scenario, we're probably looking over here at the 5th of June before realistically having the House potentially voting on this bill again. The initial assumptions that we had been hearing that this bill won't get passed until mid-June, when we had originally been talking about this around May 11th, it might end up being mid-June, which kind of sucks. But let's now talk about a little bit more about what they were saying, or at least Jerry was saying he's looking for in this bill. So this is a lot more motivating because this morning, the Senate committees and Republicans and Democrats were grilling Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, and Senator John Kennedy said that he thinks there's less than a 50% chance this bill actually passes. He didn't say, as it is. He just said in general, he doesn't think, he thinks there's a greater chance that we're not gonna see a phase 4 at all, which isn't very motivating on potential stimulus. However, Jerry Moran, a member of the Senate Banking Committee here, he suggests that, look, quote, there's a general belief that something still yet has to be done, but we need to determine what that is so that we're not wasting taxpayer money. And so he was sort of asked, so what does that mean? Does that mean extending sort of existing things that we have in the stimulus, or what is it? And so he suggests we'll probably, it'll be more of that. We'll see things like PPP, extending the PPP, maybe more funding for the PPP. Those are the things, in his words, that are easier to pass. Those are the things that had bipartisan support before. Those are the things he sees as being able to easily be extended. That kind of implies that we might easily be able to pass additional stimulus checks, like another round of stimulus. It implies we might be able to extend unemployment insurance. The things that were already passed should be easy, in his opinion, from the Republican and the Senate Banking Committee. So that's good. But remember what was not passed the last time around? Recurring universal basic income, right? I don't think anybody sees that happening. So any kind of expectation for recurring payments, I don't see happening, because there was no bipartisan support for that the last time. There's actually really never been bipartisan support for that. Jerry went on to say that he's looking at fixing what's missing and adding to things that are working. So fixing what's missing, it sounds like that's going to be where the debate is, which I'm assuming is kind of like a fancy way of saying add liability protections, right? And then adding to things that are already working. So he's, again, reiterating adding money to the programs they already have. Again, that might imply that second round of stimulus. And then he specifically mentioned funding for like the PPP. As far as state and local funding, obviously he's for it as long as it goes towards COVID-related expenses. We've heard Republicans say that before, so this isn't really a surprise. The big surprise out of this interview really is that it's not going to be surprising if we have to wait until mid-June to hear about this, which means if the HEROES Act 2 in some shape or whatever passes mid-June, think about the last time checks went out, it took about 2.5 weeks. Even if it took 2 weeks this time to get checks out, I think the earliest we might see an extra round of stimulus checks would be the end of June. So expect right before July 4th, realistically, maybe even a little bit afterwards. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin also jokingly kind of handed Donald Trump a blank debit card. And today he is suggested that these would be for the easier processing of tax refunds in the future. So maybe what we were talking about yesterday was indicative of a trial program, but maybe not necessarily for future stimulus, although it could be used for that, but for future refunds. So he didn't necessarily say stimulus there. Now, there were some comments mentioning, hey, Kevin, isn't that debit card program just for people who don't have bank accounts? And yeah, that makes sense, but we looked at the press release yesterday, and folks, the press release says that this debit card makes it easy for people with existing debit cards to transfer the money from the debit card to their bank account with no fees. So if it were designed for people who were unbanked, then that would make sense, but they said that in their press release. So it's kind of like, why are you guys doing this? I don't know. Hey, but you know what? I bet you if you have the debit card, you'll get your stimulus check probably the fastest. So if you get one of those debit cards because you're out of Andover or out of Austin, Texas, hey, good for you. But there you have a little bit of an update on timing and some insight. I thought that was a fascinating conversation. It really gave us some insight into that Republican side. That's really where we're trying to dig up information right now. Hope you enjoyed. If you like this kind of content, subscribe. Get 2 free stocks with Webull. Finally, stop stressing and get life insurance. If you're gonna do anything, just get life insurance. So that way that's out of the way. Get that out of the way, shop it later if you want. It takes you 4 minutes on your phone, Apple Pay for it. Join me in the programs linked down below. We've got that expiring coupon. And of course, join that pre-600K club. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.